The spaceport of Orion Gate Station never truly slept. Thousands of cargo ships, passenger cruisers, and military vessels moved through its endless docking rings every hour, carrying travelers from 100 star systems across the frontier. The place smelled of hot metal, engine coolant, and recycled air. Workers shouted over the roar of thrusters while automated drones zipped between hangars carrying tools and cargo crates. It was noisy, chaotic, and full of people who were too busy to notice anything outside their own problems. Which was exactly why an abandoned baby's cries went unheard by almost everyone passing through Docking Bay 47. Almost everyone, except for one tired human mechanic named Ethan Cole. Ethan was lying halfway underneath an old freighter, tightening a loose engine conduit with a worn wrench when he first heard the strange sound. At first, he thought it was just a malfunctioning alarm somewhere in the hangar. But then the sound came again, soft, high-pitched, and unmistakably a baby's cry. Ethan slid out from under the ship and sat up, wiping grease from his hands. "That's odd," he muttered. Babies didn't belong in a cargo docking bay. Curious and slightly concerned, he followed the sound toward a stack of metal cargo containers near the edge of the landing platform. The crying grew louder with every step. When Ethan rounded the last container, he stopped dead in his tracks. Sitting in a small metallic cradle between the crates was a baby, but not a human one. The child had tiny curved horns above her forehead, shimmering crimson scales along her arms, and a pair of small folded wings tucked behind her back. When she cried, little sparks of glowing heat flickered in the air around her. Ethan blinked several times, wondering if he had finally worked too many double shifts without sleep. "Well, that's new," he said quietly. The baby dragon, because that was clearly what she was, looked up at him with large golden eyes filled with tears. She sniffled once, then reached out her tiny clawed hand toward him. Ethan hesitated for a moment. He had seen many strange things working at a frontier station, but a dragon baby abandoned in a cargo bay was definitely a first. Everyone in the galaxy knew the legends about dragonkind. They were powerful, ancient beings capable of surviving even the vacuum of space for short periods of time. Some ruled distant star systems as noble protectors, while others had become the subject of countless myths and political conflicts. But one thing was certain: dragons were incredibly rare, and the royal dragon bloodlines were among the most powerful beings in existence. And this baby, she definitely didn't look ordinary. Her scales glowed faintly like living embers, and the air around her felt warm even inside the cold metal hangar. Ethan slowly crouched down beside the cradle. "Hey there, little one," he said gently. "You lost." The baby hiccuped and grabbed his finger with surprising strength. Ethan winced slightly. "Strong grip," he murmured. As he examined the cradle more closely, he noticed something engraved along its side in elegant alien script. Even though Ethan couldn't read the language, one symbol stood out clearly: the crest of the Draconic Imperial Dynasty, the ruling bloodline of the Dragon Empire. Ethan's stomach dropped. "You've got to be kidding me," he whispered, because if that symbol meant what he thought it meant, then the baby crying in Docking Bay 47 wasn't just any dragon. She was the daughter of the Dragon Empress herself. Before Ethan could even process that realization, the station's loudspeakers suddenly crackled to life. "Attention all personnel," the automated voice announced. "Security alert. Unknown hostile vessels detected approaching Orion Gate Station." Ethan looked up toward the massive observation windows above the hangar. Through the glass, he could see several dark warships emerging from hyperspace in tight formation. Their hulls were painted black, marked with the insignia of the Void Corsairs, a notorious pirate fleet known for attacking trade routes and kidnapping valuable targets. Ethan's eyes slowly moved back down to the dragon baby gripping his finger. Suddenly, the situation became terrifyingly clear. The pirates hadn't come here for cargo. They had come for her. The baby sniffled again, letting out another small cry as sparks of heat flickered around her tiny wings. Ethan rubbed the back of his neck and let out a long sigh. "Well, kid," he muttered, "looks like you picked the wrong spaceport to visit." Outside the station, the pirate warships began powering up their weapons. Inside the hangar, Ethan carefully lifted the small dragon princess out of the cradle. The baby immediately stopped crying and curled against his chest, as if she somehow knew she was safe. Ethan looked down at her tiny horns and glowing scales, then toward the hangar exit where security teams were already rushing past in panic. A human mechanic rescuing the baby of the Dragon Empress from a pirate fleet was definitely not part of his job description. But as he held the small dragon princess in his arms, Ethan realized something important. No matter who she was, no baby deserved to face pirates alone. And without realizing it, a simple mechanic had just stepped into the middle of a conflict that could shake the entire galaxy. Rocket Dragon. The alarm sirens of Orion Gate Station wailed across every corridor as red emergency lights flashed along the massive docking rings. Mechanics abandoned their tools, cargo crews rushed to secure shipments, and security officers sprinted toward defensive positions. Outside the observation windows, the dark pirate warships of the Void Corsairs slowly surrounded the station like hungry predators closing in on their prey. In Docking Bay 47, however, Ethan Cole had a much more immediate problem. He was holding the crying baby of the Dragon Empress, while a fleet of pirates was almost certainly coming to capture her. The small dragon princess had stopped crying the moment Ethan picked her up. Instead, she curled comfortably against his grease-stained mechanic jacket, her tiny wings twitching slightly as soft warmth radiated from her scales. Ethan glanced down at her glowing crimson horns and sighed. "You know," he muttered quietly, "most babies just need a bottle and a nap. Not a galaxy-wide rescue mission." The baby blinked up at him with bright golden eyes, completely unaware of the chaos happening around them. Suddenly, a loud voice echoed through the hangar entrance. "Dock workers, evacuate immediately." Several station security guards rushed past the doorway carrying plasma rifles. One of them spotted Ethan standing beside the cargo crates with the strange glowing baby in his arms. The guard slowed down and frowned. "Cole, what are you still doing here?" Ethan quickly turned slightly so the baby was hidden against his chest. Finishing a repair," he replied casually. The guard rolled his eyes. "Forget the repair. Pirates are boarding the outer docks. Get to the evacuation sector now." Ethan nodded quickly. "Right. On my way." The guard hurried away without another glance, leaving Ethan alone again in the massive hangar. Ethan exhaled slowly once the footsteps faded. "That was close," he whispered. The dragon baby made a soft chirping sound, as if responding to his voice. Then something strange happened. The tiny horns on her head glowed faintly, and a small spark of golden flame flickered in the air between them. Ethan blinked. "Did you just—" Poof! A tiny flame burst from the baby's mouth, floating upward like a glowing firefly before fading into the air. Ethan stared at the spot where it had vanished. "Okay," he said slowly. "That answers the dragon part of the mystery." But there was no time to admire baby fire tricks. Through the hangar windows, Ethan saw several black pirate boarding ships detaching from the larger warships outside. They were heading straight toward the station's outer docks. If the pirates knew the Dragon Princess was here, they would search every corner of Orion Gate Station until they found her. Ethan quickly looked around the hangar, thinking fast. "All right, kid," he said quietly to the baby. "If we stay here, those pirates are going to catch us." The baby yawned softly, clearly unconcerned about pirate invasions. Ethan shook his head in disbelief. Must be nice being that calm. Then his eyes suddenly landed on something across the hangar floor, his old maintenance shuttle. It wasn't pretty. The small spacecraft was scratched, patched together with spare parts, and barely qualified as flight-ready most days. But it worked. And more importantly, Ethan was the only one who knew how to fly it properly. A slow grin spread across his face. "Well," he muttered, "looks like we're taking a little trip." The dragon baby tilted her head curiously as Ethan carried her toward the shuttle. The ship sat inside a maintenance docking rack surrounded by tool carts and half-finished engine components. Ethan climbed inside the cockpit and gently placed the baby in the co-pilot seat, securing her with a safety strap normally meant for cargo crates. The baby giggled happily and flapped her tiny wings. Ethan quickly powered up the control panel. Lights flickered on across the dashboard as the old shuttle hummed to life. "Come on! Come on!" he muttered, tapping the ignition console. Outside the hangar entrance, distant gunfire echoed through the station corridors. The pirates had started boarding. Suddenly, the shuttle engines roared awake. Ethan grinned. "That's my girl." But just as he reached for the launch controls, the hangar doors slammed open with a loud metallic crash. 3 pirate soldiers stormed inside, their black armor reflecting the flashing red emergency lights. One of them pointed directly at the cockpit window. "There!" the pirate shouted. "The dragon child." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. "Well, that's not good." The pirates raised their plasma rifles. Without hesitation, Ethan slammed his hand on the launch control. The maintenance shuttle blasted forward, engines screaming as it shot out of docking bay 47 before the pirates could fire. Alarms blared across the station as the small ship flew into open space. Behind them, the pirate warships immediately turned their weapons toward the escaping shuttle. Inside the cockpit, Ethan gripped the controls tightly while the tiny dragon princess bounced happily in her seat like she was on a fun ride. Ethan glanced at the approaching pirate ships on the radar screen and sighed again. "Kid," he said nervously, "I really hope your mother appreciates this." Because at that moment, a simple human mechanic and the baby of the dragon Empress were racing away from a pirate fleet into the endless darkness of space, and the pirates were right behind them. Rocket Dragon. The maintenance shuttle shuddered violently as Ethan navigated through the dense traffic of cargo freighters, supply ships, and civilian cruisers scattered around Orion Gate Station's orbital ring. Outside the cockpit, the Void Corsair warships closed in, their weapon turrets glowing ominously as they began targeting the small, patched-up shuttle. Ethan's hands flew over the controls, rerouting power to the shields and thrusters while the baby dragon princess, now perched on the dashboard, flapped her tiny wings and let out a chirping squeal that somehow sounded like encouragement. Sparks of golden heat flickered around her scales every time she got excited, illuminating the cramped cockpit with a soft glow. Ethan shot a glance at her. "You know, I didn't sign up to babysit royalty while being chased through a war zone," he muttered, ducking under the sudden blast from a pirate turret. The shuttle rocked violently, alarms blaring as the hull shield absorbed the impact. But the little dragon seemed unfazed. She cooed, her tiny claws resting on Ethan's arm, and for a fleeting moment, the mechanic realized something extraordinary. She trusted him. And if she trusted him, maybe they actually had a chance. "All right, kid," Ethan said through gritted teeth. "Let's make a little detour." He toggled the navigation panel, sending the shuttle toward a narrow asteroid belt near the station's outer perimeter. The Corsair ships followed, but their massive frames made maneuvering through the belt slower and more cumbersome. Ethan zipped the shuttle between jagged rocks, dodging floating debris and occasional magnetic traps the station's maintenance drones had left scattered around the perimeter. Every twist and turn brought him closer to temporary safety, and with the baby dragon's scales glowing brighter with each daring move, the cockpit hummed with an almost magical energy. "You're helping?" Ethan said quietly, noticing the sparks that lit up the control panel as she chirped. The little dragon blinked her golden eyes, tilting her head as if to confirm that she understood. Ethan grinned. "Good. Teamwork." Behind them, the Corsair's weapons fired continuously, plasma streaking through the asteroid field and detonating harmlessly against rocks. Ethan could see the nearest pirate frigate starting to struggle, its massive bulk unable to maneuver through the belt as quickly as the shuttle. "That's it," Ethan shouted, his adrenaline pumping. "Keep your balance, kid. We're almost clear." With a final twist of the thrusters, the shuttle shot out of the asteroid belt and into open space, free from immediate danger but still not safe. Radar blips indicated several smaller Corsair fighters were closing in, fast and agile, hunting like predators. Ethan glanced at the baby dragon, whose tiny wings now glowed faintly gold, radiating warmth and confidence. "Okay, I think it's your turn." The baby tilted her head curiously. Sparks of ember-like fire flickered around her horns as Ethan's plan came together. "Just do what you can," he said, letting out a nervous laugh. The baby's wings spread just slightly, and with a sharp chirp, a wave of heat and magical energy burst outward from her tiny body. It expanded across the shuttle's aft, forming a shimmering shield of golden light that deflected the first volley of incoming plasma. The Corsair fighters faltered, unsure how to counter the strange magical energy emanating from a hatchling barely bigger than a human toddler. Ethan's eyes widened. Well, that's new. The baby cooed, sparks flickering like a miniature star around her. Ethan grinned despite himself. You're definitely making this job more interesting than I expected. For the first time, he realized something important. The baby dragon wasn't just helpless royalty. She was powerful, even in her tiny form, and she was learning to control that power instinctively. As the shuttle shot further into open space, Ethan plotted a course for the Outer Rim colony, a neutral station where they could lay low and plan their next move. The Corsair warships would follow eventually, but the baby's magic gave them a fighting chance to escape for now. Ethan looked at the glowing dragon in his lap and smiled, tired but determined. "All right, princess," he said softly. "Let's get you somewhere safe. One way or another, we're not letting anyone take you back." The baby chirped in agreement, and together, Mechanic and Dragon began a dangerous journey across the stars, far from the station where she had cried alone just hours before. A journey that would change the fate of the Dragon Empress's bloodline forever. Rocket Dragon. The shuttle drifted into the black expanse beyond Orion Gate Station, stars streaking past as Ethan juggled the controls with one hand while the baby dragon clung to his chest with the other. The little princess was calm now, her golden eyes glowing softly in the dim cockpit light, but Ethan knew they couldn't stay safe for long. The Void Corsairs weren't known for giving up, and somewhere out there, dozens of pirate fighters would be recalibrating their weapons, preparing to hunt them across the sector. Ethan tapped a button on the console, activating the shuttle stealth matrix. A barely functional system he'd jury-rigged from spare parts, but it would only last a few minutes. "All right, kid," he muttered. "We've got to make this count." The baby chirped, sparks flickering lightly from her wings in excitement. Ethan glanced at her and smiled wryly. "You know, I didn't sign up to babysit a dragon royalty while being chased across space. But here we are." The little dragon blinked, then let out a tiny roar that seemed more like a laugh. Outside the viewport, the pirate frigates appeared again, scanning for their target. Ethan felt a twinge of panic, but then he noticed something peculiar. The baby was glowing brighter, her scales almost shimmering gold. He realized she was responding to the danger instinctively, her small body radiating protective energy. "Oh, that's brilliant," Ethan muttered. "You've got some tricks of your own." A sudden warning beep sounded from the shuttle console. Several Corsair fighters had broken through the asteroid belt cover and were closing fast. Ethan gritted his teeth, weaving the shuttle between floating debris and abandoned satellites, dodging the incoming plasma blasts. Sparks flew as one of the shots clipped the shuttle's hull, but the reinforced plating held. The baby whimpered briefly, and Ethan instinctively reached over to rub her back. "Don't worry," he said. "We're going to make it." She chirped softly in reply, her wings twitching as her magic flared again. Then, without warning, the baby projected a wave of energy outward from the cockpit, forcing the approaching pirate fighters to veer off course. Their shields sparked and overloaded, and a couple of them tumbled harmlessly into the void. Ethan's jaw dropped. Wow, you just took them out." The baby blinked innocently. "I helped," she said in a tiny voice. Ethan shook his head in disbelief. "You're definitely not an ordinary baby." With the Corsair fighters temporarily scattered, Ethan seized the chance to jump into hyperspace. He activated the drive, the shuttle shivering violently as it tore open a rift in spacetime. The stars stretched into glowing lines, and within seconds, the pirate ships were left behind, unable to follow. Inside the cockpit, Ethan exhaled deeply, holding the baby close. "We made it, for now," he said softly. The little dragon yawned, curling into a ball against his chest, her tiny wings folding around her like a protective blanket. Ethan couldn't help but smile. "You know," he murmured, "I think I'm going to be in trouble explaining all this if anyone asks, but I don't care. You're safe, and that's what matters. For the first time since discovering her abandoned in the docking bay, the baby looked relaxed, almost happy. And Ethan realized something profound. No matter how small or helpless someone seemed at first glance, with the right care and courage, even the tiniest being could change the course of events for an entire galaxy. He patted her gently and whispered, "Hang on, princess. The real adventure is just beginning." Far beyond the shuttle's view, the Void Corsairs swore revenge, unaware that the mechanic and the dragon baby were already racing toward new allies, hidden secrets, and the destiny that awaited them among the stars. Dragon rocket. The shuttle emerged from hyperspace into a quiet stretch of the outer rim, where a cluster of small colonies and abandoned trading posts dotted the star systems like forgotten jewels. Ethan glanced at the baby dragon perched on the dashboard, her golden eyes scanning the stars with curiosity and awe, and realized that even in this vast, empty expanse, danger was far from over. The Void Corsairs might have been temporarily shaken, but their reach extended across multiple systems, and they would not give up the Empress's heir so easily. Ethan steered the shuttle toward a small, derelict space station known to few as Haven 9, a place where fugitives, smugglers, and anyone hiding from the authorities could disappear for weeks without a trace. As he guided the shuttle toward the docking bay, he noticed faint energy signatures coming from a nearby asteroid field. A slight glow pulsed intermittently, like someone or something was monitoring their approach. Ethan's grip on the controls tightened. "Great spies," he muttered. But before he could plan a maneuver, the baby dragon chirped, tiny sparks flickering from her scales. Ethan glanced at her. "What is it?" The baby pointed her claw toward the asteroid field, and suddenly a soft hum resonated through the shuttle. The air around them shimmered, and a faint golden aura began emanating from her body, filling the cockpit with warmth. Ethan's eyes widened. "You're sensing them?" The baby nodded, her wings twitching. "They are close. I feel their intent." Ethan took a deep breath. "All right, let's see if your sense can save us again." As they approached Haven 9's docking bay, Ethan noticed a fleet of automated security drones that had been silently orbiting the station, their sensors locking onto the shuttle. The baby's aura flared brighter, and the drones suddenly faltered, their systems unable to penetrate her magical shield. Ethan blinked. "Well, I didn't know you had that in you." He expertly guided the shuttle through the docking bay entrance as the golden glow from the baby enveloped the hull, masking their presence from the few remaining Corsair scouts still scanning the sector. Inside Haven 9, the station was dark, almost deserted, save for a few scattered traders and mechanics working in hidden corners. Ethan carefully maneuvered the shuttle into a secluded docking slot and powered down the engines. The baby let out a small sigh, curling up on the dashboard like she finally felt safe. Ethan rubbed his forehead, exhausted. "You know, I'm going to need a long vacation after this," he muttered. But the baby chirped, sparking tiny flames in response, as if telling him their journey was far from over. Ethan crouched down to her level. "All right, princess, we've made it to Haven 9, but we can't stay hidden forever. Those pirates will regroup, and the galaxy is full of people who'd want to claim you for their own reasons." The baby tilted her head, blinking innocently. "Then we must find allies," she said softly. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Allies? You mean people who aren't going to try and sell you off or capture you?" The baby nodded. "There are others who remember the old ways, guardians of dragonkind who can help us." Ethan leaned back in his seat, realizing the enormity of what she had just said. "So, not only am I babysitting a royal dragon, I'm also helping her find a secret army of ancient dragon allies hidden across the galaxy?" The baby flicked her wings excitedly. "Yes." Ethan let out a long, incredulous laugh. "Of course, that sounds perfectly reasonable." But even as he chuckled, he knew she was right. Their flight from Orion Gate Station was only the beginning. Somewhere in the outer rim, hidden from ordinary eyes, lay dragon sanctuaries and guardians waiting for the Empress's heir. And together, a human mechanic and a baby dragon were about to uncover them, changing the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Dragon sparkles. Haven 9 was quiet, almost eerily so, as Ethan secured the shuttle in the hidden docking bay. The dim lights reflected off the polished metal floor, casting long shadows across crates and maintenance equipment. The baby dragon sat perched on the dashboard, her small wings twitching as if testing the edges of her power. Ethan leaned back, rubbing his sore arms. You know, Princess, I think we might actually survive this, maybe. The dragon blinked, golden eyes glowing softly in the low light. We must, human. I cannot return to the Empress. Not yet. Not until I am ready. Ethan frowned. Ready for what? The baby gave a small, knowing smile. To reclaim what is ours. To remind the galaxy that dragonkind endures. Ethan swallowed hard. He had only expected to rescue a lost baby, maybe hide her for a few days until the immediate danger passed. But the weight of her words, even in that tiny, melodic voice, pressed on him like the gravity of a dying star. All right, he said slowly. Then we train, we hide, and we survive. Together. Outside, the distant hum of space echoed as if acknowledging their pact. The baby tilted her head curiously. Together. Ethan nodded. You and me. Against anyone who comes for you. Pirates, bounty hunters. Maybe even entire fleets. We'll face them all if we have to. She chirped in agreement, and sparks of gold danced across her scales, lighting the cockpit in a warm glow. Good. Then we begin. Over the next few days, Ethan and the dragon baby began their secret preparations. He scavenged parts from old shuttles and cargo drones, retrofitting the maintenance shuttle with hidden compartments, emergency shields, and modified engines. The baby explored every corner of the small craft, discovering that even the metal walls could conduct her magic if she focused carefully. Ethan watched in awe as she learned quickly, manipulating sparks of heat and energy to create small but controlled bursts of flame, enough to power a shield generator or disable a pirate drone without harming it. One evening, as the twin suns of the nearby star set beyond the station's observation windows, the baby curled up in Ethan's lap. I feel stronger, she whispered. Ethan smiled, stroking her tiny horns. You're learning fast. Soon, you'll be able to face anyone who comes after you. She gazed at him seriously. It is not just me who is in danger. The Dragon Empress and all of dragonkind depend on me. We must find the hidden sanctuaries. Ethan nodded, suddenly realizing that their escape from Orion Gate Station was only the first step in a galaxy-spanning quest. Somewhere out there, dragon guardians and secret allies awaited, and the Void Corsairs, along with other enemies, would stop at nothing to claim the princess. Then we keep moving, he said firmly. One step at a time, one jump through space at a time. The baby dragon blinked, her golden eyes shining with determination. Yes, one step at a time. Together. The following day, Ethan piloted the shuttle out of Haven 9, carefully navigating through asteroid belts and nebula clouds to avoid detection. Behind them, scattered energy pulses hinted at patrols of Void Corsair scouts, still hunting. But the princess's magic hummed softly throughout the shuttle, a protective aura that guided their path and shielded them from prying sensors. Ethan glanced down at her. You know, I've repaired starliners, cargo drones, and even a few battle frigates. But I've never worked on a project like this. She chirped, flames flickering briefly as if laughing at his words. You are doing well. Humans can be resourceful. Ethan laughed. Resourceful, huh? That's one way to put it. But inside he felt a growing pride. This tiny, abandoned dragon, once crying alone in a spaceport, was already becoming a powerful force, and he was the only human who could protect her until she was ready to reclaim her heritage. As they passed beyond the outer rim into uncharted territory, distant stars shimmering like scattered jewels, Ethan looked out into the void and whispered, All right, princess, whatever's waiting for us. Hidden sanctuaries, ancient guardians, pirate fleets. We face it together. The baby dragon chirped in agreement, her scales glowing brighter than ever as if answering with fire and determination. And somewhere far across the galaxy, unknown to both of them, the Dragon Empress herself was beginning to sense a shift in the currents of power. Her daughter was alive, learning, and growing stronger with each passing moment. The age of dragons in the stars was just beginning again, and a single human mechanic had become the unlikely protector of the galaxy's most precious secret. Rocket Dragon,